Hey everybody, Jimmy Smith back. I was in Central California for A, a vacation, and B, I called ProBox TV from Fresno last weekend. So I've been out of touch for about a week. Moving on, of course, UFC 318. I'm going to be in South Africa for PFL this week too. So my travel schedule's been a little nuts. But I want to get this video out of the way before I got going because I've been out a little too long. I haven't given you guys enough content. Anyway, so UFC 318, of course, it is Max Holloway versus Daniel Porier 3. The card itself, it's. I think there are going to be some entertaining fights. Not a ton of star power outside of the main event. But anyway, a lot of veteran guys kind of at the crossroads of their careers. I think it's a theme of UFC 318. Starting out in the main card, Michael Johnson versus Daniel Zel Huber. Yeah, that's another one of those where Mike Johnson has been around forever. He has some spoiler wins, most notably against Dustin Poirier, that, he's a boxer. He's kind of flat-footed, but he has decent power, good volume, and has just been around absolutely forever and has fought everyone who was worth anything at 155 pounds. Recently, of course, the level of competition has gone down a bit. He's a lower mid-level guy at this point in his career. Zel Huber is a fresher, version of him coming off a loss, but Mexican fighter, 155 pounds, hasn't fought a lot of great names, unlike Michael Johnson, but hasn't been around long enough to do that. Came in off the Dana White's Contender Series, for those of you who don't remember. The telling thing here is I'm looking at the odds, and it's Zel Huber minus 500. It's absurd. Meaning Mike Johnson, as I said, has had enough success that he can play the spoilers sometimes. He can go in there. Plenty of times I thought Michael Johnson was done. I was kind of writing him off, and he gets another decent win against a decent name. He just has a style that there's not a lot to it. He stands in the pocket and throws awkward punches and kind of walks forward and makes the octagon small and is good at throwing punches. That's it. So it's not as though he needs a ton of timing and funky footwork and stuff that really goes off a cliff as you get older. And he has experience. He's a veteran, has a very good chin still. That really hasn't betrayed him. So he's a guy who can always pull the upset. I wouldn't call him minus 500 unless it's an elite guy. And Zel Huber at this point is not an elite guy at all. So when I looked at the odds, I was like, anything other than a bet on Michael Johnson is just absurd. It doesn't make any sense at all. So, gigantic favorite is Zel Huber. I got to go with Michael Johnson to pull another upset. He's done that consistently in his career, and it's coming off a couple wins. So, Michael Johnson is my bet in this 155-pound showdown over Daniel Zel Huber. So, Dan Ige, Patricio Pitbull. I love Patricio Pitbull. He made his transition to the UFC too late. That's it. This is a guy, I think if he had made it in his prime, there were some really interesting fights. Remember, he was champ at the same time as Jose Aldo. That's how long he was, dominant in Bellator. And against any of those top guys from him to, the Volkanovski, Max Holloway era would have been interesting. He got in too late, doesn't have the snap anymore. We saw it last time out. He just isn't there. So it's not as though I'm looking at the skill set and trying to match up. Patricio Pitbull, a very good short-range puncher. He's powerful, really good guillotine. He's experienced, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I think he just went there at the wrong time. And against Yair Rodriguez, who was, of course, a versatile outside striker, stylistically very different than Dan Ige. Dan Ige is going to be in the punching pocket a lot more. This is a fight that if Patricio Pitbull were in his prime, I would definitely pick Patricio Pitbull because I think it's going to be a boxing range. Ige is slick, does have decent power, but not a one-shot knockout guy. Not the kind of guy who's one-shot power you have to really worry about that much. Tailor-made for a guy like Patricio Pitbull, who does have one-shot power. He's one of the hardest punchers I've ever seen. I just don't believe he's got the bullets in the gun anymore. It's more that and I hate saying this because I'm a huge fan, I'm kind of betting against Patricio Pitbull more than I'm betting for Dan Ige in this fight. It's the idea too that Patricio Pitbull has one win in his last 4 fights, right? 1-3 in that stretch. Dan Ige has been win some, lose some, coming off a win over Sean Woodson. Lost a couple of mil of that. The best win of the last few fights was Andre Fili, who's, tough. But Dan Ige had potential to kind of be a contender level guy. Didn't quite get there. And, is up and down in the middle range. This is a guy normally Patricio Pitbull, anywhere near his prime, would have beaten him. I don't think we're near Patricio Pitbull's prime. So it sucks, but I'm kind of betting against Patricio Pitbull because the major sign that the fighter's lost it is they don't throw punches anymore. They don't pull the trigger. Sometimes a fighter's chin betrays him late in their career, stuff like that. I haven't seen that from Patricio. I've just seen a guy who can't pull the trigger like he used to. And I think against Dan Ige, who's a very busy puncher, I think that's a very bad bet. I'm going to go with Dan Ige, probably by decision. I don't think he finishes Patricio, but I got to go Dan Ige by decision. Kevin Holland, Daniel Rodriguez. Kevin Holland going at it again. Kevin Holland, as I've said before, breaking down his style and everything he does, he's one of those guys who is physical, explosive, a lot of fun, and has decided essentially that he's just not going to be a fighter you're going to see at the elite level. That it's going to be his volume. He's going to fight a lot. Now, I don't think he has a skill set to beat elite guys, and I don't think he thinks that at 170 or 185. But what he's able to do, and this fight is at 170, is kind of be funky, kind of be explosive, take you by surprise. His submission game is very, very opportunistic, a lot of front chokes. A front choke submission game is an opportunity. You catch a guy, you catch his neck, you roll into something, and that's how he finishes you. So it's not about like stability and position. He doesn't really have that kind of game, but he'll catch you and make you pay in a scramble. That's how a submission game works. But does have power, does make a lot of mistakes in fights. And it's the difficulty in picking him is that he can just as easily bungle and give it away as he can do something great. But he's taken on Daniel Rodriguez, who is kind of plodding, does have decent power. If he catches you, he can put you down. He's big for the weight class, getting a little bit old at 38, coming off 2 wins, but the last one was to Santiago Ponzinibbio, who's another fighter I think is kind of shot. And so, yeah, he beat Ponzinibbio. Ponzinibbio in his prime, I think, was a real contender, but it hasn't looked good since a knee injury. So, yeah, coming off a win, but I don't think Ponzinibbio is great. When I look at this stylistically is, once again, Rodriguez tends to be a bit of a plotter, does have power. He plays right into the strengths of a guy like Kevin Holland, who is explosive and dynamic and kind of all over the place and comes at you with some funky angles. He tends to do well against guys who aren't versatile and just kind of plod forward. That, to me, is Daniel Rodriguez. So there's always a difficulty in betting on Kevin Holland because of his unpredictability, right? But I think he's taking on the kind of guy that his style matches up very well against. Also, yes, he's coming off, back-to-back fights. Kevin Holland is just fighting all the time. Beat Vicente Luque. That was in June, so, 5 weeks ago, so didn't have a full camp, but he's not a full camp kind of guy. He's not a prep kind of guy. He's not a strategic kind of fighter, so he's one of those guys, much like Cowboy Cerrone. He's at his best if you throw him in late notice. That's when he's really at his best. And so the fact that he just fought, I don't think it hurts him that much. I got to go with Kevin Holland. I didn't see the odds posted anywhere, but got to go with Kevin Holland. Don't even know what the odds are, and I'm going with Kevin Holland. There. So, moving on. Paulo Costa versus Roman Copalev. Paulo Costa, to me, is just a really hard-hitting middleweight. That's it. He's got big punches. If it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. The problem is, most of the time, it hasn't worked, especially recently. Coming off a split decision loss to Sean Strickland, I think that's 1-4 in his last 5, if I'm not mistaken. Let me take a look at it real quick. But he's one of those guys who just has a limited skill set in a weight class where you need a lot of skills. And I don't think he has it. He's just huge for the weight class, and he punches really hard. Well, a lot of fighters can just get past that. It's 1-4 in his last 5. The one win was to a shot Luke Rockhold, who was coming back. Other than Israel Adesanya, they've all been decisions. He is tough. He is, a durable guy. Once again, really big, so the guy can take a shot. I don't think he has a skill set to be elite, and he has the name value. He has the look, so it's easy for the UFC to sell him, but he's not. I don't think he has a skill set to be great at 185 pounds. Copalev, to me, is coming up. He's on that kind of streak that you look for in a young, tough fighter. Beat Chris Curtis, beat Cesar Almeida. Also, the loss to Anthony Hernandez has aged pretty well. Anthony Hernandez is a very, very good fighter. I think we're seeing that in the UFC. But as the step-ups have happened, and the last one was against Chris Curtis, the head kick knockout, if I remember correctly, a little controversy in the stoppage in that one. But anyway, my point is, as the talent level has come up, he's certainly gotten better. And I think he's well-rounded enough with his striking versatility to give Paulo Costa, who's a very limited puncher, a lot of problems. So he's a big favorite. I think 2-1 right now is what I'm seeing. The problem is the over is minus 238. So what they're saying is, yes, Roman Copalev probably wins, but it's he's probably not going to do it early. I have to agree. Paulo Costa has been a durable guy. So best bet is Copalev by decision. All right, so on to the main event. Max Holloway versus Dustin Poirier. Pretty much a coin flip fight, depending on your book. Odds aren't very different on either fighter. So what is the difference, right? The odds makers can't really do it right now. It's Dustin Poirier plus 105, Max Holloway minus 125. That's on DraftKings. So, Max Holloway a slight favorite. The over is minus 154. The under is plus 120. So under 4.5 rounds is plus money. Look, can you look at the previous fights and learn anything? Not really. They were both a while ago. The original fight, was just too long ago for us to compare them. The second one, I think Max Holloway didn't put enough time into really filling out at 155 pounds. He's a bit smaller. And in a firefight with Dustin Poirier, he really didn't have the size or the power. I think he has really grown into 55 recently. Obviously the Justin Gaethje fight, he was able to win a slugfest with a naturally much bigger guy, and obviously got the knockout in that fight. So he's filled out a bit. They're both in similar places in their careers. They've been through a lot of wars. They're at the back nine of their careers where they still have name value. They're still very popular, but neither guy's fighting for a title. Of course, Dustin Poirier, this is his retirement fight, but Max Holloway, coming off the knockout loss to Ilya Topuria, had won 3 in a row before that, but it's just been through a ton of wars, and it catches up with you at a certain point. Dustin Poirier, once again, in a very similar position. This is his retirement fight. Coming off a loss to Islam Makhachev, beat Benoit Santini before that, lost to Justin Gaethje. He's been win some, lose some. Literally win one, lose one for his last few fights. What's the X factor here, right? What's the thing separating them? Poirier's retiring and Max Holloway isn't. And I talked to the NFL player one time many years ago, and he said your toughest years in the NFL are your rookie year and your retirement year. Your rookie year, of course, is because you're the new guy and people want to see if you can take the shot, and you get hazed all the time. But on the field, everyone wants to see if you have what it takes, and they crush you. Your last year, they know you don't want to take that last hit. And when a guy's running at you full speed and he's 260 pounds of muscle, are you going to go for that extra yard, or are you going to step out of bounds? You know you're going to be drinking margaritas on a beach this time next year. Do you want a blown meniscus to go with it? Do you want one more concussion? Do you want one more injury when you know you're done in a few months? He says it's very, very hard as an NFL player to put everything into it your last year. If anyone's going to put everything into their last fight, it's Dustin Poirier. But to fight Max Holloway, there is that gut check moment where you go, man, I really got to push to win this. Are you going to do that in your last fight? That's the one X factor, is you're not fighting for any kind of future here. Are you fighting for the fight of the night bonus? Yeah, I guess. He has plenty of those. He's financially secure, doesn't need it in order to retire. So Max Holloway wants to do things with his career. He's on a short list of guys to maybe get a title shot, again, at 155 pounds. I know I said their title days are past them. I don't think he wins a title at 155 necessarily, but he could be in the mix, I guess. This idea that he believes he can do things with his future. Poirier does not. And in those difficult gut check moments where you gotta step on the gas to get it done. Is Poirier gonna do it in his last fight? That's the only difference I can see between these two fighters right now, and that's what I'm going with. I think in those gut check moments, he might go, I don't really need to do this anymore. Am I going to push it? So I'm going with Max Holloway. I know it's tough because Dustin Poirier is definitely a warrior. And like I said, if anybody gives it everything he's got in his last fight, it's going to be Dustin Poirier. But, if I got to look at the little tiny X factors, it's the fact that Max Holloway still has something to prove in the UFC, and and Dustin Poirier does not. So Max, to me, is going to push it right when he needs to, and he ends up winning a very close decision. That makes the most sense. If you want to make a little extra money, I would say going with the under 4.5 rounds does make sense. Maybe he catches Poirier, puts him down. But I got to go with Max Holloway against Dustin Poirier in their third fight. He gets his first win against Dustin Poirier. Once again, back Sunday, so I should be around Monday to do a post-fight show. Appreciate you.